myths are 11,000 years old, they don't help us search for a lost Indian civilization. For that I still need a major underwater archaeological site in the areas that geology shows were flooded at the end of the Ice Age. Researching Indian archaeological journals, I found a neglected study describing a sunken ruin. It was in an area that I knew had been flooded at the end of the Ice Age, and there's a flood myth pointing straight to it. Here, deep in the Tamil part of South India, one of the most sacred sites is the Meenakshi temple in the ancient city of Madurai. Tamil myths say the temple was established by the survivors of a flood. According to the myths, the survivors had belonged to an earlier and highly advanced civilization. Its most famous achievement before it was swallowed by the sea was a great academy or sangam for the perfection of human knowledge.
Sangam means collection. People come together to bring out a great work.
What happened to it to exist?
Okay, that is, there's a big land. So many people were there. The sea came in and it swallowed the whole thing. That's what people say.
Do we have any descriptions of what sort of land it was?
That is the most ancient continent in the whole world. The best and the ancient civilization existed there. And it belongs to Tamil.
Right, and this is about 10,000 years ago.
10,000 years.
The Sangam flood myth hints that the remains of a lost civilization more than 10,000 years old are waiting to be discovered underwater around the shores of South India. In fact, the dates given in the myth go back to 11,600 years ago. That's the same time frame given by Plato for the submergence of Atlantis in another ocean. And Ice Age science confirms that huge amounts of additional land were available all around the coast of India in the precise period signaled by the Sangam myth.
So you can see, if you focus down here in the southern tip of India and Sri Lanka, it looks more or less as it does at
Pretty
present.
much as it looks now.
Proceed now to 10.6, 12.4, 16.4.
Well, they're extraordinarily different from how they are today. I mean, we're looking at almost a continuous landmass.
So when the ice sheets were at their biggest, sea levels at
Right. So the next step of my journey is to go to the coast, to search under the waves for the hidden history of that lost, flooded terrain. This is the Granite Shore Temple at Mahabalipuram. It's overlooking the Bay of Bengal in southeast India and is one of several dozen extraordinary rock-hewn structures scattered along the coast. I first came to this seashore when I was 5 years old. In fact, I learned to swim here. It always stayed in my memory as a mysterious place with its wonderful granite temples. The structures we can see today are thought to be about 1,300 years old, but the local myth has it that they commemorate an earlier and now lost city. The city builder was a proud and arrogant giant named Bali. And the story goes that he made a city so beautiful, luxurious and ornate, its temples so tall, its reliefs so rich, that the gods became jealous.
They sent orders to the god of the sea to let loose his billows. The city was at once overflowed by that furious element.
And the lost city of Bali isn't just an old myth. Local fishermen know all about it because it affects their livelihood. First of all, how did you come to know that there are these structures underwater? How did you learn about them?
உங்களுக்கு அங்க மண்டபம் இருக்குதுன்னு எப்படி தெரியும்? வலை போட்டதால தெரியுமா இல்ல சாதாரணமாவே தெரியுமா?
அந்த காயில போடும்போது
When we throw the nets, they get caught in these pillars. When we tug on the nets, they break. No fish, no pillars. So how many structures underwater?
நிறைய இருக்குன்னு சொல்றீங்களே இந்த மாதிரி எவ்வளவு இருக்குன்னு நினைக்கிறீங்க நீங்க இந்த மாதிரி கட்டடம்?
பெரிய கட்டடமா இருக்குது. அது எங்க நம்ம இது போல
It's not like that. There are stones all on top of one another, dilapidated, jumbled together. Yes, jumbled together.
I can't get permission from the Indian government to dive at Mahabalipuram, but I am able to dive a little further south at Pumpahar. The same experts from the National Institute of Oceanography who I worked with at Dwarka have found a structure that is truly mysterious. It lies almost 3 miles from the present shoreline at a depth of more than 70 feet. It's important because geologists tell us it was submerged about 11,000 years ago when sea levels rose. Archaeologists know of no culture of that time capable of building something so large. And it's mysterious because it was flooded at a date when Tamil myths say a high civilization flourished on land that was later swallowed up by the sea. Here, as at Mahabalipuram, underwater structures provide perfect shelters and breeding grounds for fish. Dr. Gower explains before the dive that archaeologists don't believe in lost civilizations 11,000 years old.
To construct a so big structure, I think it's about 40 meters in length.
It's a big structure.
Yeah. When we come to here in this particular area, if you see the structure, such a big one, it means they have a very great technology.
As we get ready for the first dive, it dawns on me how much I have at stake in the next few hours. Because if the structure I'm about to see really is more than 11,000 years old, then it is, almost by definition, the work of a lost civilization. We reach bottom at about 70 feet. The visibility's pretty bad. But soon Sundaresh brings me to a sheer wall about twice the height of a man that juts up out of this ancient inundated plain. It doesn't look like it belongs here naturally at all. Sundaresh draws my attention to several heavily overgrown courses of masonry.
Have you checked Martin? Incomplete.
A little further along, Sundaresh points out a second area of partially exposed construction blocks. As we continue along the U-shaped structure, I see that almost every inch of it is draped in fishermen's nets. It feels a bit eerie.
Looking at these straight lines on the walls, you can almost make out courses of masonry. I'm in no doubt that we're looking at a man-made structure here. There is a lot of growth on it. When we try to...
On reviewing the dive on deck, what convinces me is these clear courses of individual blocks. And the way that the U-shaped structure sticks up so unnaturally from the flat sea bed. A computer model of the structure from measurements taken by the NIO reveals the overview that the murky waters hide from divers and shows that other structures stand nearby. Perhaps it was an enclosure for ritual purposes. on deck, Kamlesh Vora, the expedition leader, confirms that further anomalies have been identified in the same area.
There are another port structures around north of this place and south of this place where we feel that, or we believe, or we know from the people saying that there are submerged structures below. This is one place maybe in isolation. But if 3 or 4 structures along the coastline, if they give us some good unified...
And if you can plot the relationship of the structures to each other.
We should put all the data together. And
well, it seems to me an area that deserves more research.
Mysterious.
Mysterious, exactly. A couple of months after I dived at Pumpahar, a news story, not picked up elsewhere, appeared in the Indian press announcing the discovery of 2 lost cities 120 feet under the sea off northwest India. Precisely where Glenn Milne's maps had shown a huge loss of land at the end of the Ice Age. I felt as though I was being shown the Holy Grail. Nothing could stop me from going there. In 2001, a team of geologists from India's National Institute of Ocean Technology made a series of startling discoveries in the Gulf of Cambay. Their sonar readings show evidence for 2 huge cities 120 feet underwater. And a sample they've collected from the seabed has been carbon dated to the end of the Ice Age. The NIOT experts aren't archaeologists. They were doing pollution studies in the Gulf. But what they found is of massive archaeological significance. Could these flooded cities be the proof I've been looking for, which joined to archaeology?
Initially, when we went, we thought probably we'll be on an early Harappan site, but after seeing all the artifacts and evidences what we have collected, it looks that they are before the Harappan period.
Which means, in the end, that history is going to have to be looked at again.
Definitely, maybe this is the beginning of a major discovery for the world.
I think so. It's the scale of the sites which is so exciting.
It looks like a twin city or a twin metropolis of ancient times.
Right. The cities are located right in the area that Glenn Milne's sea level rise data shows was flooded between 7,000 and 8,000 years ago. This was at the very end of the Ice Age and was the last of 3 major pulses of meltwater release that have been identified by geologists.
One city is more than 8 kilometers long, other one is almost 9 kilometers.
These are enormous.
Enormous, yeah. Both of them appears to be along 2 river courses.
A natural place for humans to settle.
Yeah. Can have a look here.
This is a treasure trove. Next, Dr. Badranarian took me to see some of the artifacts they've recovered by dredging the underwater sites.
These are micropools, where you can see various shaped thin objects, well polished to use them for various purposes.
This is like a spoon.
Yeah. You can see it's the shape of a deer they have made.
Well, it's very interesting because it's carved the same on both sides. Human remains include a fossilized jawbone and vertebrae, and the artifacts show that these people were skilled in making pottery, jewelry, and other ornaments. This seems to have been almost like turned on some sort of...
Yeah, it is. It appears to be a very good artifact. Probably they had a sort of hand instrument to turn all these things. If you see, there's a hole also they have made through that.
And this hole runs all the way through it?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. So this is absolutely definitively a man-made object.
Yeah, we did not know what it was.
Most startling of all, a stone slab was discovered with raised markings which could push back the date of the invention of writing to the end of the Ice Age.
Yeah. This is some of the images we have picked up in the...
Sub-bottom profiling, a technique that detects materials buried beneath the seabed, reveals the city's massive foundations.
In between the seabed, you'll be seeing soft material.
Right.
This is the foundation of which
Which has quite a different character from the rest. So this is building foundation.
Building foundation. Right. And you can see that they are very regularly...
Indeed. Which are walls.
Yeah, walls.